Welcome to another Ziva Math video. In this video, we will teach you how to subtract mixed numbers. We'll start with a basic problem with common denominators and move to finding a common denominator. Then we'll focus on subtracting mixed numbers when you have to regroup. Let's take a look at our examples. In this example, I have 2 and 7/8 minus 1 and 3/8. I do have common denominators, so I can go straight to my subtracting steps. Subtracting mixed numbers, I always start with the fractions. So 7/8 minus 3/8. And I'll subtract my numerators. 7 minus 3 is 4, and my denominator of 8 remains the same. Then I can subtract my whole numbers. 2 minus 1 is 1. Once I have the difference, I need to check and see if I can simplify. Well, 4/8, my 4 and my 8 share a common factor of 4, so I can simplify 1 and 4/8 by dividing the numerator by 4 and the denominator by 4. The whole number 1 remains part of my solution, and 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2, for a final answer of 1.5. In this example, I have 5 and 8/9 minus 2 and 1/3. And when I subtract mixed numbers, I start with the fractions. And the first thing I see is 8/9 and 1/3 don't share a common denominator. So I'm going to have to find that common denominator. And I'm going to do that by listing the multiples of 3 and 9. And the first multiple that shows up on both lists is my common denominator. Well, 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. And then let's list a few for 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. And 3 times 3 is 9. So now I see 9 on both lists, so 9 is going to be my common denominator. With 5 and 8/9, I already have 9 as a common denominator, so I don't need to do anything with 5 and 8/9. I do need to look at 2 and 1/3 though. With 1/3, I have a denominator of 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm going to be multiplying my denominator by 3. If I multiply my denominator by 3, I need to multiply the numerator by 3 so I can have equivalent fractions. Well, the 2 is part of that mixed number. It's going to stay. And then 1 times 3 is 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. So 2 and 1/3 is equivalent to 2 and 3/9. And now I have fractions with a common denominator. When I subtract mixed numbers, I start with the fractions. So 8/9 minus 3/9, starting with the numerator, 8 minus 3 is 5, and my denominator of 9 remains the same. Then I have 5 minus 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. Then I need to ask myself, can I simplify 3 and 5/9? 3 and 5/9 cannot be simplified, so 3 and 5/9 is my final answer. In this example, I have 4 minus 2 and 3/5. And when I subtract mixed numbers, I always start with the fractions. But with my whole number 4, I don't see a fraction there. And I cannot do 0 minus 3/5. So I'm going to need to regroup. And when I take the whole number 1 from the 4, in order to use it for subtraction, it has to be in fractional form with 5 as a denominator. So the whole number 1 in fifths is equal to 5/5. So that's what I'm going to use as my fraction. I'm going to have 3 and 5/5 minus 2 and 3/5. Now I can start by subtracting my numerators. 5 minus 3 is 2. My denominator of 5 remains the same because I always start subtracting mixed numbers with my fractions. Now I can subtract my whole numbers. 3 minus 2 and 3 minus 2 is 1. And I need to double check, do I need to simplify 1 and 2/5? 2 and 5 don't share a common factor, so we are simplified. So my final answer is 1 and 2/5. Here I have 6 and 1/10 minus 3 and 3/10, and I do have common denominators of 10. And when I subtract mixed numbers, I start with the fractions. So I have 1/10 minus 3/10, and I always start with numerators, 1 minus 3, and I can't subtract 1 minus 3. So I'm going to have to do some regrouping. So I'm going to go to the whole number 6, and I'm going to regroup and take 1 from the 6. That leaves me with 5 as a whole number. And that whole number 1 that I'm borrowing, I have to put into tenths in order to be able to use it. So 1 is equal to 10 tenths. And that 10 tenths I'm giving to the 1 tenth, which means I'm going to add 10 tenths to the 1 tenth. My whole number 5 remains the same, and I'm going to have 11 tenths as my fraction. Then 3 and 3 tenths already has a denominator of 10, so 3 and 3 tenths will remain 3 and 3 tenths. So now I have 5 and 11 tenths minus 3 and 3 tenths. And I'm starting with my numerators. 11 minus 3 and 11 minus 3 is 8. My denominator of 10 remains the same, and then I subtract my whole numbers. 5 minus 3 and 5 minus 3 is 2. So I have 2 and 8 tenths, and I need to ask myself, can I simplify? Well, 8 and 10 share a common factor of 2, so I can simplify by dividing my numerator by 2 and my denominator by 2. So my whole number 2 remains as part of my solution. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my final answer is 2 and 4/5. In this example, I have 7 and 1/8 minus 4 and 5/12. And the first thing I need in order to be able to do the subtraction is common denominators. So I'm going to be listing my multiples for 8 and 12, and the first multiple on both lists is going to be my common denominator. So I have 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, and for 12, I have 12 times 1 is 12, and 12 times 2 is 24. So 24 is going to be my common denominator. And to get to a denominator of 24 for 1/8, that's 8 times 3 is 24. If I multiply the denominator by 3, I also need to multiply my numerator by 3. So the whole number 7 is going to remain 7. 1 times 3 is 3, and 8 times 3 is 24. Now I also need my common denominator of 24 for 4 and 5/12. 12 times 2 is 24, and if I multiply the denominator by 2, I need to multiply my numerator by 2. The whole number 4 remains the same. 5 times 2 is 10, and 12 times 2 is 24. Now I have 7 and 3 24ths minus 4 and 10 24ths. And I start my subtraction with the fractions. So 3 24ths minus 10 24ths, subtracting the numerators, 3 minus 10, which I can't do, so I'm going to need to do some regrouping. When I borrow the 1 from the 7, I will have the whole number 6. And then that 1, in order to be able to use it, I have to have it in a fraction with 24 as the denominator. So the whole number 1 is equal to 24 24ths. And I'm going to give those 24 24ths to my 3 24ths, which means I'm going to add 3 24ths and 24 24ths. So the whole number 6 remains the same. Now I have 27 24ths. So I'll have 6 and 27 24ths minus 4 and 10 24ths. Looking at my numerators, 27 minus 10 is 17. My denominator of 24 remains the same. Then I subtract my whole numbers. 6 minus 4 is 2. Now I need to check and see, do I need to simplify? Well, 17 and 24 don't share any common factors, so 2 and 17 24ths is my final answer. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Ziva Math for more videos.